Hello, viewers. We're going to try something a little different today. I was doing a personal reading for a lovely lady on Saturday who, I was doing my mediumship thing, connecting her to loved ones on the other side. And she said, I would love to know what Marjorie Merriweather Post thinks about Trump. So, ever since she said that, I have felt her energy around me. I think she's got a lot to say. So I'm going to do a little channeling with mediums. Sometimes you may see them like scribbling on a piece of paper to distract their mind. It's a way of getting your filters out of the way for channeling. One of the things I tend to do is I pull cards. Sometimes randomly, just pulling cards. It's not random because the spirit is guiding me to the cards that I'm pulling. I'm not going to angle the camera down to the cards because it's almost unimportant, because it's just a way of me tuning into the spirit energy more. And it's a way that I shift my filters to the right. Many of you have the ability to be mediums. It's learning to push your filters in your mind's eye out. I literally shift them to the right. And get images. I have clairaudience, so I hear things, and a lot of times when I do this, I don't remember what I say. So I may have to go back and watch the video even before I post it to make sure everything's understandable, that it's coming through pretty clear. But Marjorie Merriweather Post, she built Mar-a-lago. At the age of 27, I'm looking at a few notes I made about her. She was born in 1887. At the age of 27, her father died and left her General Foods, which is Post cereals, so all those Post cereal brands. She was, at the time, the wealthiest woman in America. She was worth over $250 million in 1914. I actually Googled what would that be worth in today's money, and it would be like the equivalent of being worth $6 billion in today's money. So she was quite wealthy. She spent $7 million building Mar-a-lago. She passed away in 1973 and left Mar-a-lago to through the Post Foundation to our U.S. government. She had intentions that it would be like either used as like a summer White House, as sort of a resort, kind of like Camp David, or could be used for meetings. Our U.S. government could not afford to keep it up. So you may remember Trump, when he bought Mar-a-Lago, our U.S. government gave it back to the Post Foundation. Marjorie Merriweather Post's daughters put it on the market to sell. Now, one of her daughters was Dina Merrill. Dina Merrill, famous actress. She passed away in 2017. Marjorie Merriweather Post, she was married like 4 times. So I can't remember which husband was the father of Dina Merrill. Dina Merrill's not her real name. That was her stage name, so to speak. Oh, it was, she was the daughter of E.F. Hutton, Edward Francis Hutton. You may remember the commercials. E.F. Hutton was a big stockbroker guy. The commercials in the old days before they sold the company off and merged with some other ones. They used to have these commercials. When E.F. Hutton talks, people listen. When E.F. Hutton talks, people listen. She divorced E.F. Hutton when she found out he was having affairs on her. So even though she was married 4 times, divorced 4 times, she was single when she died. She did not like adulterers. So I think that's really interesting. Her first husband was Edward Bennett Close. Edward Bennett Close was is the grandfather of actress Glenn Close. And I think it's kind of interesting. If you look at a picture of Glenn Close and you look at a picture of Dina Merrill, they look a lot alike. Their jawlines and everything. And they look a lot like Marjorie Merriweather Post in some aspects too. But Glenn Close actually is not related to Marjorie Merriweather Post, but she is related to Dina Merrill. They're cousins. They're cousins, probably twice removed or whatever that is, because of all the divorces and stuff. But there is a relationship there. So back to selling Mar-a-Lago. When the daughters decided to sell Mar-a-Lago, Trump put in a bid and he lowballed them. They had the price up kind of high, and then they dropped it to like 20 million. Trump lowballed them. They didn't accept his offer, so he bought the strip of land in front of Mar-a-Lago on the ocean side and threatened to build a big high-rise and block the view of Mar-a-Lago. Mar-a-Lago is on the historic register and everything. It's a actually beautiful home. But he ended up getting Mar-a-Lago for $7 million, which is what it cost her to build it in the 1920s. So there's that. The other thing, Marjorie Merriweather Post was quite the socialite. She was also a philanthropist. She was very big on Boy Scouts and things like that. She was very active in her other homes. She had like 4 other homes, but one of her main ones she lived in was in the Washington, D.C. area. Has a beautiful botanical garden, Hillwood Estates. She was an art collector. She collected a lot of pre-revolutionary Russian art. There was a little scandal around how she got the art. When Stalin came into power, he started selling the art because he needed money to finance other things for the Communist Party and what they were trying to do. So although she supposedly got everything on the up and up, she got things very cheaply, very cheaply. So there's a little bit of, she collected a lot of House of Romanov things, Fabergé eggs, 18th and 19th century French art as well, religious objects, Asian collections. Her Hillwood estate is actually a museum now. That was left to the Smithsonian Institute. The other interesting thing about her third husband, Joseph Davies, served as the second ambassador to the Soviet Union in the mid-1930s. So he had connections to Russia, and she had a lot of connections to Russia. As an ambassador, that's when she got into entertaining a lot of politicians and people in the government and stuff. So that all being said, let's just take a look. I'm just asking her to come in closer here. And the first thing I want to know is from Marjorie, what are your thoughts about how Trump acquired Mar-a-Lago? What do you think about Trump even buying Mar-a-Lago? She's saying you have to discern the truth about how he did things from why he did things. There's an ineptitude in the way he does things. He doesn't always think things through, but he is a bully type personality. He is very much so someone who gets his way by bullying. So she does not like how her daughters were treated through that. This was a family inheritance. It was her legacy to the country, and she loved America. So she was quite angry at the way he acquired the estate, and he was doing it under false pretenses of how much money he had at the time. Fraudulent claims on how much money he had. So again, kind of like what's going on now with Trump is what I'm hearing, where he did fraudulent inflation of his assets in order to buy it. He also maintained just a status quo with the estate. He didn't do anything to improve it a lot. as far as the grounds. You know, he didn't do a lot of repairs that were needed for the upkeep of the estate because he didn't have the money. He didn't have the money. She thinks it's funny that he uses it now as a social club where it's a paid membership, in society. In her time, she's talking about people would get together, like fundraising, you know, for different political needs and things, but there wasn't this flat out paying to play. His illusions about his wealth will come out. She's talking about that. His illusions about his wealth will come out. Yeah, it's interesting. Marjorie makes me feel like I need to sit up straighter. You know, she was a socialite. She was born in the Victorian era, and I feel like I'm supposed to sit up straighter. I should be wearing jewelry. She loved jewelry. I should be dressed better, you know, to talk with her. That's the feeling I'm getting. Like, yeah, she's talking about Trump's just an illusion. He's just like this facade, you know, of how he wants to appear, but he's not really all that. So I want to ask Marjorie what she sees going on in Mar-a-Lago now and how it's being used. She would like for it to return to the U.S. government. It will return to the U.S. government. She feels that his estate will be taken from him. She does not like how he is using people that are involved in the porn industry and sex trafficking. That like completely offends her. Like there's just way too much going on. Children are not being protected. She just had me pull the devil card here. Greed, avarice, lust, envy, 7 deadly sins, sloth. She's talking about that Trump's a slob when he's there. He doesn't dress like a socialite. She's talking about his legacy will be his greed, his avarice, his vices, everything. That's what he'll be remembered for. He won't be remembered for being the president. He will be stopped. He will be defeated. Truth is coming out. He will be made an offer to leave. And it involves his connections. So she's very much guiding me to the cards to pull here. So Marjorie, are you? I do sense she is not an earthbound spirit. She is, you know, crossed over, but those spirits on the other side do visit us here. So are you visiting Trump? Oh yes. It's not oh yeah, it's oh yes. Very proper English with this lady. She's okay with Melania coming to visit, but whenever Trump comes, she makes herself known. She's making herself known. She feels he has betrayed his country. She is Actually, it feels like she's protecting Melania a little bit. So I don't know if he's, the feeling I'm getting is that he's aggressive towards her, whether physically or emotionally, or, lashing out at her, yelling at her, that when he does this, because Marjorie took no crap from a man. When her husband got, she found out he was cheating, bam, divorce, out. You're not here anymore. Bye bye. She is actually, it feels like she's trying to protect Melania a little bit, as well as Baron. He has no regard for his children. No regard for his children. He would pack them up. He would pack them up and send them away. And that means even to prison. Like he would not protect his children. He would pack them up and send them away. He doesn't like fooling with them. She just sees him as very grotesque. Very grotesque. That's the feeling I get. Very grotesque. I just want to ask her, what did she think of the painting that he bought using his charitable foundation? He bought a portrait of himself, and it's now hanging in Mar-a-Lago. Oh, that will be taken down. That will be taken down. She's actually showing me like a bonfire, and she's like laying that painting on a bonfire, like that must be destroyed. It's almost like the picture of Dorian Gray kind of thing, like, oh, it's just got negative energy attached to it. It needs to be burned. She's coming to him when he's trying to sleep. She's talking about that she's coming to him when he's trying to sleep. And she wants me to call attention to the dogs on this card. Trump is not an animal lover. We know that. Marjorie was very fond of dogs in particular, but a big animal lover. She always had dogs around her, and she and her dogs are coming to him when he's sleeping and shaking the bed and pushing on it. The dog's jumping on the bed. She tended to gravitate, it feels like, smaller dogs. It doesn't feel like bigger dogs. It feels like smaller dogs. So, she's talking about a schnauzer in particular. A schnauzer. Feels like she had Cocker Spaniels also, but smaller dogs through the years. Through the years, she had a lot of dogs. She's leading me into the Mueller report. She said we will be amazed at what Mueller has unearthed. Some things, the Mueller report is much longer than what we are being told. So we're being told it's around 400 pages. She said no, much bigger. She said there are boxes and boxes of evidence. Some of that has been sent to the other districts for their, or copies of it to the other districts for their investigations. But there are boxes and boxes in the Mueller report alone. It feels like the actual report could be a couple of thousand pages long. Gothic. Like a Gothic novel. Like a big fat Gothic novel that just goes on and on and on. So I just want to ask her, and I'm using the cards again just to push myself aside again. I want to ask her what she thinks about Trump's relationship with Russia, and her feelings about Russia, how it's changed now with Putin in there. I just want to get, her husband at the time was ambassador when Stalin was in there. Now, Stalin was an ally for us in World War II, but he did some horrible things to his people. So I'd like to get her impressions now on what's going on with Putin and what's going on with Trump. You have no idea the depths that this man will go to. He is completely absorbed in money. He owes money to the Russian oligarchs. He's still trying to do more business with them. They have compromat material on him. They do have compromat material on him. He was interesting. I'm shuffling the deck, and this card was this way in the deck instead of face down like the rest. Ace of Cups. Like there's a gift that's going to be given to us. We're going to find out more. So it's kind of affecting my throat chakra a little bit because of Trump's lies. She hates all the lies. She hates all the lies. So he has issues with the throat chakra. He has issues with his throat chakra. She's talking about he may be unable to speak in later years. So like whether has a stroke or something that takes his ability to communicate away from him. It feels like she's drawing me to that throat chakra, like he's not going to be able to talk forever. He has enemies in Russia he's not aware of. He doesn't realize. He thinks they love him, that he's okay, but he doesn't realize how many enemies he and his family have in Russia. Putin no longer likes him, but Putin is using him to serve himself. So Putin's putting on a mask with Trump. So he's acting like everything's okay. I still support you as president, that kind of thing. What he is supporting is the rhetoric that is coming from Trump. So the divisiveness, dividing the country, that's what he supports. Trump himself, he thinks is stupid. Putin will be out in less than 10 years. Feels like maybe 5. Feels like maybe 5. He'll be gone. He's marginalized his own society too much. It's interesting. She's talking about how the Republicans are constantly talking about Democrats or socialists. And what she's talking about is the fact that the oligarchs in Russia and Trump are socialists because they want the wealthy to keep growing their wealth and the have-nots to go away. But she said what they're not thinking about is you have to have the people that don't have as much money to maintain the wealth, because they're the ones. She's talking about her Post cereal in particular. Without customers to buy the cereal, it was a very affordable way to feed people, and it was also at a time where there wasn't a lot of refrigeration. It was a food that didn't spoil as quickly. So, you could put it in your cabinet and it was still good in a week, in 2 weeks, it was still okay. And she said, thank you to those who didn't have as much money, because they're why she was wealthy. She tried to do the right things with her wealth. She thinks there are some things she could have done better. She wishes she and her husband had been able to do more about Stalin, but at the same time, he was an ally during the war to get rid of Hitler. So he served his purpose in that way, but she didn't like how he treated his own people. She loves America. She loves the opportunity it brought to her father to create this wealth, which he passed on to her and this company. She likes the opportunities that America brings. I feel like she was from a influential family, but not as well off as her father became when he started this company. You know, he was a working man, so it almost feels like they were much more middle class. And then he developed this wealth, and she said that's what America offers to us is a way to create abundance. Um, That's why she liked the Boy Scouts. She liked the Boy Scouts learning to do things for themselves, teaching them independence and how to rely on their own skills. Um, she's talking about Trump's an aberration. It's like he's like this illusion that's going to go away. You know, it's like a facade, and she's talking about changes in Congress. More laws will be put in place strengthening the emoluments clause, more laws that will require candidates to disclose their taxes, more laws to protect this from happening again. The government will learn to get the influence of money out of it, but it will take time. But they will start going after the lobbyists and trying. There are some lobbyists that are needed, and she's talking about this. There are some who bring forward concerns in our country that we may not be aware of otherwise. So she's talking about that some lobbyists are needed to further advances and bring these causes to light. But the amount of money that's being paid from the lobbyist groups, from the corporations into the candidates running for elections, that will be curtailed somewhat. It feels like she's talking about the Senate will be overturned, that the Senate will be Democrat again. The Republicans will be overturned. And it feels like we'll have kind of like what happened with Trump, where he had the House and the Senate and the presidency. It feels like we're going to go that road again. But it'll be on the Democratic side, and they're going to strengthen laws to prevent this from happening again and require transparency. Diplomats, meeting with diplomats, throwing out notes. No, 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 that won't happen again. You know, meeting with leaders of foreign countries and not having notes, not having transparency about what's being discussed. There will be witnesses, there will be notes, media possibly even being required. Someone who will make it more transparent when they're meeting with these leaders. Talking about dissolving the dissolving of the Republican Party, like it's going to become even more right wing, and that there are people in the Republican Party that ran as Republican candidates that will be crossing over or moving into a more centrist party, a more centrist party. Republicans will no longer hold the power they wield today. So I'm just going to ask her to what she thinks about the women's movement, because she was, to me, she was well ahead of her time, as far as women's rights, and getting divorced at a time where it was frowned upon in our society. She did it 4 times, and it never affected her friendships, her social status. I'm all for it. She said, I'm all for it. I'm all for it. Women's rights, women's movements. She loves uh, that Hillwood Estate, something about Hillwood Estate is embracing the LBGTQ community. So might have to Google that, see what's going on at Hillwood, that they're embracing the LBGTQ community. And she's talking about, oh, I knew people that were gay back in those days that were in the closet, trying to hide it. She found it very sad, that they couldn't live to be their true selves, that they, a lot of times they would get married and put on this facade. She found that very sad that they couldn't be themselves. And be accepted. Just ask her if there's anything else she would like to say about what's going on today. The women's movement's going to continue to grow. She said we will have a female president one day, but it won't. I don't feel like it's going to be in this next election. She said people still haven't made up their minds, but she said if not in this next election, it feels like within 10 years we'll have a female president. We will continue to see more women serving in Congress and the Senate and the House. Talking about Trump will be isolated. He will be isolated, and the sun will come out. The sun will come out. Let me ask her what she thinks about these far-right extremists that do violent things. Yeah, she's talking about they feel empowered to work together openly, to openly work together because Trump is in power. That's going to change swiftly. They feel strong right now because of Trump. They feel emboldened and strong. That will change swiftly when he is gone, So you'll start to see them going underground again. Not that they will completely disappear, but they will go underground somewhat. Oh, she wants to talk about Betsy DeVos for a second. Oh, she does not like what Betsy DeVos tried to do to the Special Olympics. She was glad that was squelched. She said, I helped. So I feel like she was helping from spirit to squelch that. The families that have children that are disabled, whether it's mentally or physically disabled, don't have, in general, as much money to get the best care and the best experiences in life. And that will start to change again also. We'll start to see more rights for the disabled and more rights for more funding for special things that help these children to integrate into society to the best that they can, but also supporting the families that are having to deal with a child with special needs. She loved her children. She loved her children dearly. She's with her daughters on the other side. She's talking about husbands are a dime a dozen. I was attracted to men because of their mind, not because of their wealth or anything, because she was wealthy in her own right. But she said, I maintained my wealth even after divorce. She maintained her wealth. So she knew how to, in a divorce, she tended to marry men that were financially stable, but after the divorces, like she didn't have to give up anything to them. Um, she's talking about her daughters, kind of repeated the same thing she did, like they were married multiple times. So their challenge was having lasting her relationships, and um, you know, not aligning with someone that caused them heartbreak. Um, but she said part of the problem was that the women were all fiercely independent, and that was it changed the dynamics, because they were standing in their own truth. Because they were standing in their own truth, it caused big changes in their family dynamics, in their homes, and the men at that time had a hard time dealing with that. Patriarchal society. They still do. She said they still do. Um, she's talking about Mar-a-Lago will be protected. It will be protected. It will be uh, taken away from Trump, but it will be protected. It will still be there. It feels like it will be used for events and things, so weddings and big events. Um, she doubts it will ever be a private home again. It will be used for big events. Um, and she's okay with that as long as it's not pay to play, as long as it's true. Like if there's a charity event that people are giving money because they believe in the cause, not because they're trying to buy their way into something. So, um, she's talking about her husband that when he was ambassador went to the White House frequently, and that he still goes there some. He still goes there some. He still visits there from the other side. Um, um, she's talking about it'll take time to dissolve the unity with the alt-right and the Republicans, that they are very much in bed with that extremist right. She's just thanking me for letting her come in. Marjorie, you're welcome at any time. Come back. I've been feeling her around me. I did the private reading for this person on Saturday, and ever since then I've had Marjorie hanging around me, so I wanted to get to this. This is a little bit longer video. It's a little different, doing a little channeling and um, mediumship, connecting with Marjorie, but I'd just like to thank her for coming in, and thank again my new friend I did a reading for on Saturday. You know who you are. This one's for you. I thought it was a brilliant idea, and as soon as she said it, it's like I've been feeling Marjorie's spirit around me. So thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed that, click like and subscribe. I know that was a little different. Pardon my shuffling. That's another way I'm just putting my filters, ego, whatever you want to call it. I push it to the side, and when I'm shuffling, it enables me to keep my energy vibration higher when I'm connecting as a medium to someone. Sometimes I talk faster, when I'm doing it, because I'm trying to maintain that connection. I felt like Marjorie, because she's been around me for 2 days. I felt like the spirits on the other side, for mediums, like we raise our energy to meet them, they have to lower theirs to meet us, and that's when we connect. And I feel like she was able to lower hers quite a bit more for me, because I didn't feel like I had to talk as fast to keep the stream going for such a long conversation with her. So she felt very strong. She's still telling me, sit up straight, you're slouching. It just makes me want to sit up straight. But anyway, thank you, Marjorie, for joining us. Thank you, viewers, for watching. If you like that, please click like and subscribe. We'll see you in another video.